All right, time for another dad story. Trying a new format, going horizontal, see how that works. This is a 3D and Up story. So, as I'm sure you know, 3D and Up was the pottery company I started in Boston in the 90s. And when we started it, it was in a garage, a two-car garage. Uh, that's a whole nother story. But suffice it to say that it was an old two-car garage with no insulation or, any comforts of any sort. And I had an acquaintance who was an electrician who I had wire it for me. So he was able to get the kiln in there. Started in the summer, like July of '93, I think. So not a big issue. Opened the doors wide. Had a kick wheel at first. So everything was, I mean, a lot of trial and error, but got it going pretty well. Comes the winter time, and it's cold, very, very cold. And yeah, I had a kiln, but you couldn't run that all the time. At that time, I didn't yet have a wood burning stove. I got that later. So I was looking for a heater I could use, and I went to a store called Somerville Lumber. I'm not sure if it's still there. Somerville being a town north of like Cambridge, other side of the Charles River from Boston. And this is before there was Home Depot or Lowe's or anything like that. So Somerville Lumber was the biggest hardware store there was around. And I went looking. They didn't have any like space heater type things. And so I asked a young man who worked there if he could help me. And he was like, well, I do have this heater, propane heater that somebody ordered and didn't pick up. And it turns out it was designed to heat like a floor of a building under construction, like a skyscraper under construction, all tarped off. It put out 300,000 BTUs, so British thermal units. So it was a serious heater. In fact, just leaving it on the pilot was almost enough to heat the garage. And so what you would do once I got it in the garage is you'd turn it on for, at most 5 minutes. And it sounded like, like a hot air balloon. And, it would heat the place up, and you'd turn it off and let it coast for about a half hour until it got cold again and turn it back on. And 93 was just a brutal, 93, 94, brutal winter. Lots of snow. It was just cold. I had this young man working with me. He went to the museum school. There's two art schools on the same street, Mass Art, where I went, and the museum school. And so he was a student there, and he, was just looking for work, and he was working with me. And he came by the studio one night, probably to get paid or something. And we walked into the building, into the garage, and it was really cold. So we turned the heater on, and he got too close to the heater, and his pants caught on fire. And these were like, this was an era where there were like these sort of baggy jeans that were of a cotton polyester blend or whatever. And they went up in flames. And he stood there and he's like patting his leg, trying to get the fire to go out. And I thought all the way back to elementary school, and I'm sure you can say it with me now, stop, drop, and roll. And so I said, hey, stop, drop, and roll. And he did, and it put it out. Thank God. It went right out. Very effective technique, should that ever happen to you. And he was pretty freaked out, understandably. So I said, hey, let me give you a ride home. He's like, no, I'm fine. I'm going to walk home. I'm like, dude, it's 4 degrees outside and you have a gaping hole in your pants. You will freeze to death. He's like, no, I'm fine. I'm like, get in the car. I insist. And he said, fine. So he got in the car and we drove. And even at that, he wouldn't let me take him all the way home. I had to take him some distance. I don't know what was going through his mind. He did not come back and work for me anymore after that. He was a good young man. I hope good things have come to him. But that was just one of the many adventurous mishaps of the early days of 3D and up. So stop, drop, and roll.